Hello. I'm using my computer this time, so I'm not actually sure if I'm live yet. There we go. All right. Hi everybody. This is Lorena. I'm using my computer this time, so I was like, because I'm having some connection difficulties with my phone. If you've been joining me at all for the last couple weeks, so just making sure if you are here, please drop a hello in the comments or like this video so that I know everything is working as it should be. So today I wanted to talk. Thank you, Kristen. Today I wanted to talk about something that seems, I think, fairly simple, unless you are somebody with a puppy, for example, maybe a new puppy, maybe a dog with some challenging behaviors, or maybe you are working on. Hi, Anita. Maybe you are working on some specific training and behavior skills, and walks are maybe stressful for you or for your dog. And I think that this is a much more common problem than people like to admit. And often, what I find is that either the folks that I talk to about this topic are clients that I'm working with who recognize that their dog is struggling with whether it's like leash reactivity or not paying attention or pulling on lead or barking a lot or whatever it might be. Um, or aggression toward people, that's a challenging one. Fear, dogs that are really scared of everything. And they're working on it. And so we talk a lot about setting our dogs up for success with walks and what walks can and should look like. But then also I find that a lot of folks who find walks stressful just stop walking their dogs, which is actually not a bad choice. I think it's a great option to recognize that walks are not the best option for your dog. And it is probably contributing to a negative impact on your relationship with your pet, and it maybe is increasing your dog's general agitation and anxiety at home. And so I've talked about this in the past in terms of like you do not have to walk your dog. And I know that blows some people's minds, but you really don't have to walk your dog. There are so many other things you can do with your dog, and even if that's just cuddling on the couch and sniffing around the yard, for a lot of dogs that's a happier life. So that's a slightly different conversation, but I do want to say in terms of setting our dogs and ourselves up for walks, for successful walks, I think one of the most important questions you need to ask yourself is my dog does my dog need to go for a walk right now? Like, does this need to happen? Is now a good time to make that happen? I have Yoshi here settling nicely while all of her favorite things are on the ground because I'm about to do some show and tell. So I'm rewarding her for being calm and not messing with all of her stuff. So, so the thing that Heike, nice to see you. So the thing that I like to ask myself is like, is now a good time to take my dog for a walk? So a few things to consider is it takes up to 72 hours for your dog's stress levels to even begin to return to normal after a stressful event. So when I say stressful event, I'm talking about like they had like an incident at the dog park yesterday where they got into a scuffle with another dog. Maybe they went to a barbecue with your family and 14 other dogs and 6 kids yesterday afternoon, and maybe they could use a day of rest. Maybe your dog had a particularly stressful walk this morning for whatever reason and saw a lot of their triggers or seemed to just be really agitated. Maybe now is not the right time to walk them. If you start gearing up for your walk and you notice that your dog moves away from you when you try to put their walk gear on, that's a really good sign that it's not a good time to go for a walk. If your dog does not want to go, do something different with your dog that day. Another thing to think about too would be if you notice that your dog is already having a rough day. And I think this is a challenging one for folks because we're sort of we've been taught for a really long time that if a dog is misbehaving at home, it just needs more exercise. And I have spoken at length about this, and you can access it in my other lives in terms of that probably not being the best option for a dog that's already wired. People used to say a tired dog is a good dog, and I would say that a calm dog is a good dog. In my experience, a tired dog is often a wired dog, especially for the kinds of dogs that people tend to just want to give more exercise so they can get a few moments of peace with their challenging dog. So that said, let's say that you maybe have a dog like my dog Yoshi. So Yoshi historically struggles with anxiety. She has a pretty strong startle response to certain noises. She is a little bit of a pessimist in that if something is new or novel in her environment, she's a little worried about it, and sometimes overly worried about it. And she has a pretty intense history of dog reactivity and dog aggression. So taking her for walks is an exercise is now the time. Is she going to enjoy this walk? Am I going to enjoy this walk? Is now a good time of day to walk this dog? Is now a good time of day to maybe not run into all of the dogs and puppies that might be out? Maybe not when kids would be coming home from school, kind of thing, depending on whether or not your city or state has kids in school right now. So I want to talk a little bit about like gear and stuff to bring with you to have a successful walk with your dog or puppy. And I say puppy also because even if you don't have a reactive dog, if you are walking a newly adopted dog or a puppy, all of these things absolutely apply because you are actively doing training every single time you take your dog out, even if you don't think you are. So your dog is learning, and if you don't want them to learn behaviors you are not excited about, then you need to be proactive. So, as I've talked about before also, I really think your dog should be in a harness. They should not just be walking with their collar. A head halter is a different discussion depending on your dog's level of reactivity or how hard they pull. But generally, a Y-shaped harness, such as this one, goes like this, like that. Y-shaped harness with 2 connection points, I highly recommend. So 2 connection points means that there's a connection point on the chest and there's a connection point on the back. Really nice versatility, really nice control. I've given examples in the past of harnesses that I recommend. Feel free to ask questions in the comments. I don't like harnesses that go directly horizontally across the chest. They tend to restrict some shoulder movement, so just look for a Y-shaped harness, a lot more comfortable for your dog. I also really like my double-ended leads. So right now it's a handle, and it can easily be turned into 2 clips that I can clip to the front and back. Now she's like, oh man, are we going for a walk? We're not going for a walk. So, so thinking about what kind of gear you like to walk your dog on. If you have a dog that is reactive to things, even if it's just squirrels, and they tend to like buck and kick like a lion when they see a squirrel, I highly recommend a double-ended lead or even a double leash system. So a lot of our clients benefit from doing a waist leash as well as a leash in their hands. So potentially the waist leash is connected to the back clip of the harness, and maybe your hands are holding a leash connected to the front clip. That's a really nice safety backup system that can make you feel more comfortable, especially if your dog is like my 80-pound pit bull, pretty strong and has a history of some pretty intense reactions. So, you decided to go for a walk, you've got your dog geared up with their harness and ideally some kind of safety leash system. And the other thing that you are going to bring is a treat pouch. I am surprised / not surprised by how many of my clients will often get to session 3, 4, or 5 with me, and then I discover that they have still not been taking treats out on walks. So if you are leaving the house with your dog, you should have treats with you. It's a no-brainer. There is no reason that you should not be grabbing your treat pouch on this walk. Hi, Tanya. Thanks for joining. I literally consider my treat pouch, this is my cute little silicone one from the UK. Thanks, Laura Bradshaw. I consider my treat pouch to be as important as my poop bags. Or I guess my dog's poop bags. I don't know, are they mine or my dog's? If you get halfway down the block and you realize you forgot your treats, go back and get them, just like you would if you realized you forgot your poop bags. And ideally, I feel like if you're watching this video, you are definitely the kind of person who picks up your dog's poop. You should also be the kind of person who takes treats on walks. High value treats. I recommend taking at least 2 different kinds. I usually will have a little like trail mix of treats. So like right now, Yoshi's earning some like admittedly old dehydrated beef liver or something. And there's also just her kibble in there from her breakfast. In terms of treat pouches that I recommend, they don't need to be really, really nerdy, but I highly recommend you just embrace the nerd and make it a thing. So for me, I have this silicone one that I really like when I put like cheese or hot dogs and gross stuff in there, because I can easily rinse it out or even put it in the dishwasher. But my go-to one is actually just this waterproof fanny pack. So I just bring this with me, and it's always full of super tasty treats. So right now there's some meal mixers from Stella and Chewy's that Yoshi likes, and then there's also some of the like dehydrated tripe treats. Those are pretty high value. And then I have like dehydrated chicken, and then there's also just kibble mixed in there, so she never really knows what she's gonna get. I also, even when I'm walking my older dog, who's pretty chill, he loves to work for his food, so why not bring treats on his walks too? Could I have a calm walk with him without taking any treats? Yeah, absolutely. He even walks on an extendable lead. I know, kind of like considered blasphemy in some trainer circles, but he's an old dude, and we go walking in the field, and he gets to do his own thing on his extendable lead or his long line, depending on what's happening. But he will still stay right next to me and happily play games for food, even at 10 years old. So why not feed your dog their dinner on their walk? You're going to be reinforcing all of the behaviors that you want, and you will be getting your money's worth from your trainer who has given you all of these exercises to work on. A few other things to think about is where and when you walk your dog. So even if you have a dog that is not necessarily behaviorally challenging, think about what your dog enjoys. They probably don't want to walk at the farmer's market with 14 million people wandering around. They probably don't want to charge through the middle of the dog park and get mobbed by 16 dogs at once. They would probably like to go to places that have grass that they can sniff, stuff they can pee on, a variety of different textures, maybe be able to sniff the bases of some trees. So maybe try and identify the spots that your dog tends to linger, and then go to those places. Walks are not just for your dog, but they're for the relationship between you and your dog. They're for that moment of like being in the moment and enjoying the experience with your dog and allowing them to explore the world. That's the only time they get to leave the house often. So take your time, slow down, and go places that they would like. Maybe a little bit less busy, and maybe with a little bit more texture and variety of stuff to explore. Let your dog use their nose. Another thing to think about is if you have a particular piece of gear that you've been working with your dog on for safety or management, make sure that you bring that too. So like I said, this is kind of my go-to dog walking pouch. It has my poop bags, and then I've got this pocket for like my face mask that I keep in here, as well as different variety of treats, and I can just throw this in the washing machine. And there's also a pouch in the back, like for my phone or whatever. But I also make sure when I'm walking Yoshi that I have her muzzle with me. And so the vast majority of the time when I go for a walk with her these days, I don't need to put it on her. But if I enter a space where there's a lot of off-leash dogs, and I don't necessarily trust that those dogs are polite or have reliable recall, then I choose to be the responsible dog owner, and I will muzzle my dog so that if we get assaulted by an off-leash dog, at least I know that my dog isn't the one harming anyone. So thinking about management and safety, that could be anything from maybe you typically walk your dog on a long line or on a retractable lead if that's something that you do. I don't necessarily recommend them for most people who live in the city or for the average walk, but I think they can be useful in some circumstances. Make sure you also bring a regular 6-foot lead or some kind of short handle that you can easily control your dog with. The other thing that I want to say is decide why you are walking your dog and what is the reasoning or intention behind that walk. If you are having a bad day, maybe don't walk your dog, especially if your dog requires a lot of management and training. Maybe stay home and play some training games, of which you can find many in our lives and also our online classes and webinars. And think about how walks are really not for exercise. Like, unless your dog is a tiny, tiny dachshund, and even then, I've seen dachshunds that can go for miles and miles, it's pretty unlikely that your dog is actually getting exercise when you take them for a leashed walk. What's happening is mental enrichment, bonding with you, maybe some training, and lots of sniffing, hopefully. This is about your dog having a more enriched life and having a little bit of variety. It's not for exercise, unless you are running or cycling or something like that. And so if that's the case, then maybe think about other ways that you could start to include that kind of enrichment in your dog's life without necessarily always leaving the house. I also really like to think about mixing things up for my dog's walks and not always taking the same route. I feel like a lot of folks fall into this routine or pattern of always walking to the same places and on the same paths, and that's like not super exciting for your dog. And also I think that it tends to contribute to anticipatory arousal type behaviors. So for example, a lot of folks I talk to say that their dogs pull like a freight train to get to the dog park or that field by the school that we always play in, and that happens every single time because the dog anticipates what's going to happen next. So maybe think about taking a different route and mixing it up. Not only will that tire your dog out mentally, but you'll actually probably get a better behaved dog out of it. I also like to just pile my dog into the car and drive to a new neighborhood, or sometimes I'll look at Google Maps and like pick a random green spot and go there and let my dog sniff and explore and see if I can find a new place for some sniffy walks. So, that said...
I'm not sure, but I found some information for... My dog keeps sniffing my other dog.
My Google Home is talking to me. So I would love to see to hear a little bit about what sort of things you take with you on your walks that make it successful. Would love to hear about what sort of activities you do besides taking a walk, if maybe that's not the option for your dog that day. And otherwise, hope to see you again and have a great day.